It's been another weekend of confusion for the travel industry as ministers appeared to put the brakes on the prospect of foreign holidays by saying that we can't be blind and deaf to what's happening outside the UK.
But as the government continues with its cautious approach, large parts of the USA are already unlocked, despite a higher death rate, as citizens are told to take responsibility for their own health.
Well, we're joined now by Sam Rubin from LA to tell us what the mood is like across the pond, as well as Simon Calder to help explain the current travel situation. So morning, both
Morning,
of you.
morning.
Simon, lovely to see you. Let's start with you first.
Good morning.
Just remind us of the current rules. What can and can't we do?
Well, absolutely all overseas holidays are illegal. They have been since the start of January, and that will continue for another 8 weeks until the 17th of May. But that's the critical date where everybody is looking at the prospect that, we'll be going on a summer holiday where the sun shines brightly, where the sea is blue, etc. Or will we? As you say, we've had a whole series of ministers coming out over the weekend saying, don't book your holiday yet. We don't know what's going to happen, as well as government advisors, epidemiologists saying, no prospect of overseas holidays in July and August, which, of course, is causing immense grief, not just for the hundreds of thousands of people who work in the travel industry, the millions of us who want a holiday, but critically the families who've been separated for a year or more and are just desperate to get there to see their loved ones overseas.
So let's find out then, what has the reaction been like from the airlines? I mean, also us holidaymakers who want to book holiday and travel agents, of course, all affected by this.
Yeah, and there is mounting fury in the travel industry because there is absolutely nothing wrong, as you and I have discussed, with booking a proper package holiday through a real-life travel agent. Either you'll get the holiday you want or you'll get your money back. So saying don't book a holiday, don't have anything to look forward to is ridiculous in my book, and that's pretty much the view of the airlines as well. But they're also really worried that continuing warnings like this will simply destroy everybody's confidence at a time when we're all desperately looking at some sort of escape, but that's for our emotional well-being. And of course, economically, it's really important for a lot of people who work in the travel industry here and abroad. But at the same time, it has to be said that infection rates in many parts of Europe are going through the roof. And as a result of that, of course, the chances of us going abroad are dependent on how the government here sees the risk of infection there. And at the moment, in most parts of Europe, it's looking pretty bleak. But we are still 8 weeks away. Remember, 8 weeks ago, we had, in January, the average death toll today was an absolutely tragic 1,000 plus. Today, it's still very, very tragic, but it's about 100 or so. And hopefully we'll continue to travel in the right direction. Europe's completely bungled its vaccines, but hopefully they'll sort themselves out. And, as I say, 8 weeks from now, I'm very confident I will be going somewhere, frankly, anywhere that will have me.
Where will you go?
Well, it all depends. I mean, if you look at the numbers now, and I spend my whole life looking at them, if you look at some of our holiday favourites, Turkey looking quite tricky at the moment. Croatia has had a terrible weekend. Portugal and Spain, though, particularly Portugal, are looking really, really good. But the government is concerned with those variants. If you look at somewhere like Iceland, where they've almost eradicated it, or Gibraltar, where the whole adult population has been vaccinated, they look a pretty good bet. And we're not the whole of Europe, the whole of the world suddenly opening up, but hopefully we will be told on April the 12th, when the Global Travel Task Force reports, well, not perhaps where we're going to be able to go, but the criteria that will be applied so that we can start making some firm plans. At the moment, it's just everything is up in the air.
But Simon, this is Dr. Mike Tilsley warned that summer holidays overseas are extremely unlikely because of the risk of travellers bringing coronavirus variants back into the UK. Now, we've heard from epidemiologists, we've over the past year, that there are always variants. There will always be variants. All viruses change. So there will constantly be variants. So if you're worried about bringing a new variant back into the country, that means you'd never be able to travel, ever.
Well, that was what I put, actually, to Dr. Mike Tilsley. He's a mathematician at Warwick University, and guess what? In the dim and distant past, I was a mathematician at Warwick University. He's a lot brainier than me, and he knows more about epidemiology. But I did put it to him that At what stage will we declare that it's safe to go abroad? I mean, there are always risks associated with every human activity. There's always been risks associated with international travel. Of course, everybody wants to keep safe. And I'm sure all these, every epidemiologist simply wants to do the best. But I'm just worried that there's not enough balance for emotional well-being, for economic survival, and just, frankly, something to look forward to.
All right, Simon, thank you for joining us. Let's cross over to Sam Rubin now, who's live from the US. So let's just find out a bit about what's going on there. Around 60,000 coronavirus cases, over 1,000 deaths are still being recorded daily in the US. Despite these figures, things are beginning to open up there, aren't they, Sam?
Indeed, they are. Good morning to the two of you. I think people here think if this whole thing is sort of a mountain that we're climbing over, that we're at the top of it and slowly but surely heading towards the bottom. Maybe we're a little ahead of our skis in terms of that, but I think people do have an overall sense of optimism, and particularly in terms of the vaccine. Now the vaccine, depending upon where you are, is more or less readily available. I'm not in one of these risk groups, and I got a shot about 2 weeks ago, my first of two, so they are now relatively obtainable.
So the Republican Governor Greg Abbott has said Americans must take responsibility for their own health.
Right, and a lot of people are suggesting he's being absolutely idiotic, and this is, one problem with America is that with the individual governors of each state, and we've never had sort of federal standards to any of this, that his complete opening up of Texas is misguided. But then you have others who suggest, well, look at the statistics, and a completely open Texas or a completely open Florida is not doing, any better or any worse than a relatively closed California. So the dilemma is, I think people are looking for objective fact, and you get sort of subjective opinion. And some of the opinion is from power makers who are making decisions, and people elect to follow them or do not.
So where has opened up then? Because we saw spring break in Florida the weekend that was packed with students all heading down there. Disney's opened up in Florida also.
Yeah, Holly, again, it's very interesting. I think a lot of responsible schools have canceled spring break. My daughter is in uni, and her school decided not to go forward with it. I think that's the case of most schools. However, and again, it's the sort of yin and yang. It is incredibly inexpensive to fly right now, so very cheap to fly to Florida, very cheap to stay in Miami, and they've had nothing short of riots in Miami. People without masks in very large numbers on Miami Beach. A lot of confrontations with the police and the like. And so the concern is, as we're speaking right now, we don't know. A week from now, 2 weeks from now, will we see that word that we hate the most, a surge in those areas, or people from those areas going back to wherever they came from. So I think it's kind of a nail-biting time. We overall feel better, but there are certain, torrents of behavior that you have a feeling probably are not such a good idea.
But the word is that the Oscars are not virtual, that they will go ahead.
Very interesting note from producers to everybody in the Hollywood or global community. If you want to go to the Oscars, and this was a written instruction to nominees, you must attend in person. Academy Awards say they're going to take every possible precaution, not dissimilar to a working movie set, so lots of testing. I suspect they'll make vaccinations available in advance. But they're basically saying, even if you're weary of traveling, tough luck. If you want to be involved with the Oscars, you have to show up in person. They've changed the venue, Phillip. It will be at our downtown train station, which is primarily open air and outdoors, as opposed to the Dolby Theater, the traditional home, which is a closed-in theater.
Oh, fascinating, as you say, Sam. We'll wait and see what happens. I know that there are people saying it's happening too quickly. 1,000 deaths a day is still a huge number, but those vaccination numbers are extraordinary as well. 100 million vaccine doses in. He said, this is Joe Biden said it was going to be in 100 days, and he's done it 6 weeks early. So that's extraordinary. We'll wait and see what happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You take care. Bye bye.